Hey, Dusk here. We're going to build a base together. So this is going to be kind of a longer video, but I'm going to walk through my thought process. We're going to go ahead and make something that's going to get some kills. We're going to try and make it fun, and we're going to use the that little 3-layer strategy that I outlined in one of my previous videos on how to make awesome bases. Anyway, let's get started. As you can see, I've already started building on it. That's because I recorded for an hour explaining the whole process and getting started, and I didn't hit the record button. I'm gonna just have to re-summarize what I did, but that's fine. So you're gonna get the short version. The first thing I like to do when I get into a build, because I'm a thematic builder, I like to come up with a theme first and then build around the theme. Not everybody does that, and whatever method you use to come up with ideas is fine as long as it works for you. This is just what works for me, so that's how we're gonna walk through today's video. So the first thing I like to do, because I'm a thematic builder, is get onto this screen and hit the strip outpost button so that I have a nice clean slate to work with. After that, I like to see where my treasure nodes are, and then I mark those out. And if I can, I like to incorporate those into the build. And this is a great way to force some good build diversity onto yourself so that you don't accidentally find yourself just making the same base over and over again. The next thing is to look at like roughly where the gen mat is located, and then where are this foundational rock, what's it called, bedrock, how it's shaped. And on this map, which you can't tell because I've already filled in kind of some ground, but there's very little underground. Actually, you can kind of tell. But what we do have is a lot of like pipeline and machinery. So I kind of want to incorporate that. So that means we're going to make something that has a theme with a lot of engineering or factory or, you know, machinery is going to be a big theme for the base. So next I look at the blocks and I'm like, oh, what blocks do I feel like working with? Well, the hellscape blocks are still kind of new and I haven't really worked with them a lot. So what can we think of that might be a good theme for a lot of factory and hellscape? Well, there's a game series called Quake that does a lot of like necro engineering and necro forging. So I think that sounds like something really cool. Let's build a necrotech facility. And so I decided to go with hellscape and then also the industrial ruins and industrial ruins 2. And as you can see down here, that gives us 3 out of 5 active packs. I'm not going to decide on the other 2 packs yet. I'm going to leave those blank because maybe I want to grab something from over here. And this just gives you a little bit more wiggle room to work with stuff. So, all right, so now let's talk about the exterior wall. Oh God, this is going to be hard. This was like a big process to make this wall. First thing I did is I just filled in the ground. And then we talked about how one of the treasure nodes was down here, right? So I knew I was going to want to play with that small underground section. And I also knew it was very far away from the gen mat, so the player was going to come here first. So I decided that, yeah, we need to make a staging point to get under there. So this was going to be the facility. I walled it in. This is the first room. We figured out where the best place for the, the corridor going down right here. And so I did like a square wall. Now the ramp was too close because the way everything was kind of squished in here. Like I needed to either push the wall back or just make a diagonal cut. And what we ended up with was this really interestingly shaped wall. So then I filled in, the blocks and we made like the big wall. And I'm like, well, that obviously looks too plain. So then I punched out some holes for the glass windows. So I put some glass windows and I was like, cool. But it's still, the shape was too plain. It was a lot of red. So then I changed this to a beveled in tile to create like texture, and we started out with that, and that looked cool, but it still felt a little plain. So then I beveled the top, and then I started fishing around in here, and I grabbed this. I was like, oh, that looks cool. So then I went ahead and bordered the bottom here because now it looks like a reinforced facility, which again, we're going for that Quake vibe, right? So that fit the bill. And so then the last but not least, I was like, what are we going to do with these beveled, edges? Because this is a facility, maybe we need some lighting. And then I saw an opportunity to go ahead and start splashing in the necrotech a little bit. So instead of the standard lightings, I went with the hellscape lighting. That's how we got the exterior wall. I decided not to flesh out much more because this started by getting the shape first. And so I want to go ahead and get a shape for the whole facility going. And then once we do that, then we'll start backfilling with detail. And then I'm going to start putting in traps. And then as I put in traps, I'm going to have to make more room. And I'm going to have to re-edit things to put, you know, shapes and cubby holes and all the things we're going to need to make our traps work. So it'll be like a whole nother pass. So it's going to be a pretty big building process. Let's get started again, now that I'm recording. All right, so we completed this, right? We built this ramp, and I've made a slanted roof on the top and the bottom here because I'm not trying to stress the raider too much, right? I want to keep my base from being tedious. I want it to be fun so that if the raider dies, they feel good about queuing up to trying again instead of being like, wow, this base sucks. I already hate it. I'm just going to leave. So yeah, we want to make sure that the raider has good visibility. They can glance down this hallway and see, okay, no traps, and I can move down. Whereas, you know, if you have a lot of blocks, they have to stop and check every single block. I got to check that. I got to check that. Like, we don't want to stress the raider out. We don't want to end up with a tedious base. So I want to give some really clean sight lines. And then they have nice visibility over the entire room. And they feel pretty comfortable. They go ahead and jump in here and they can get their first treasure node. And then a nice clean escape out. I left this cut out so that we could start tying in some of the piping here as decoration. And then I put down grating to cover up a lot of the bedrock. And then I needed to cover up some of the bedrock on these triangle wedges. So we started out with the red paint, which looked okay. But then I thought, well, this is a necro facility, because I was looking at this and the red paint doesn't look that good, right? It looks okay. But then I went back and I looked around and I looked around and I'm like, oh yeah, hellscape. So I tried out some blood and it gives a much brighter red, which I kind of liked. You know, it's definitely painting that necro engineering look. So this is this room. I may or may not put anything in the room. I might put like a guard or two. I don't love this bend here because that's tedious to have to work a lot of corners. But I don't know. I'll figure that out. Right now we're just trying to get the shape in. So we're going to move him here. And the next place we want to go is the next treasure node, which is here. And this is where we have like a ton of like pipe work and machinery. So this is going to be like the heart of the Necro Forge, where all the necro engineering is going to happen. So we're going to be using like a lot of glass panels. I think I'm going to put in, you know, rooms that the raider can't even get into, but they can look through the glass and see, you know, things going on. So that's what we're going to do. That's our destination. So I've got a nice wide hallway. It's going to be too wide. It's going to be a pretty comfortable hallway. I want the raider to feel at ease. We're going to leave the cutout for the piping here. And now we got to like go this direction. My first instinct is maybe to go with diagonals, right? Because that kind of looks cool. And if we do that, I probably want to fill a little bit of that in. But now the downside is once I go to put a lot of grading down, it's going to look weird. So let's see if the blood looks okay in this context. And how's this going to look here? I'll go ahead and put that grate there. Okay, and hit P to get rid of preview. Okay, the pit looks pretty good. The cutout, fantastic. I really like the cutout. How does this look? Is this passable? I don't think so. Because I want to paint a better, like a more high-end facility, not... Like, I really don't want to showcase a lot of bedrock. So maybe I'll leave this bevel here. But I think we're going to try and keep this as square as possible. So that means we're going to do something like this. And do I want to leave this diagonal cutout here? See how it's already changing shape? You kind of have to let your building tell its story to you, right? Like, we might make this an area where we hide some AI, but if the player comes and looks back here, right, they get to follow all this pipe work and it takes the players someplace. Or maybe that's how they get to the treasure node, right? We don't want the treasure node to be part of the primary path. I want to put the bevels in there because, again, that creates a more comfortable... Like, see how much easier it is for the player to get in here and see everything? That's just a lot nicer for the player perspective. Now what do we want to do here? We could put great work around the base of this. Because this, I've done this before. This looks cool. And then once we get in here, that's just a treasure node. So I think it's probably fine to kind of do that, I suppose. It's like too much blood. There was other blood. Where was the other blood? Ah, here, yes. Maybe I could do that. Like blood's kind of leaking out of the vents and stuff. Yeah, there we go. That looks cool right there. But let's be real. That looks cooler. Also, check that out, the way that kind of borders the pipe. That looks really good. I like the way the great work looks here, and then that all looks fantastic. All right, so we've got some rooms here. We've let the treasure node help explain how we want things to be shaped. And now we're kind of out here again. How are we gonna do this giant room? And then where's our last treasure node? It's over here. I don't think I'm gonna worry too much about that. But first, let's get this room figured out. Do that. I think we're gonna need to shape it up like this. And oh, is this a little tunnel? Oh, it's a natural. It's a natural thing. Oh, that's so good. And then the pipe. Oh, look what we have an opportunity to do here. To create a cutaway for the pipe. Oh, can we then, like, maybe do this? Okay, that looks dumb. That looks dumb unless the whole room is... shaped like that. Okay, how does that look? And then the pipe. Okay, that looks better. I'm okay with that. That looks good. But so far, look how this is shaping up. You can kind of like imagine this. Like, this is gonna be a huge base. So yeah. This is gonna be pretty good. All right, next is, I want to figure out the rest of this room, because I talked about wanting to use the glass windows, right? Like, I wanted to create some really shocking stuff, if possible. Something where the player's like, oh my gosh, that is so crazy looking. Let's see, we could do that. That looks kind of cool. What if we did the opposite, like that, so that it looked more... because we're on the outside looking in, right? I don't know if it ties in this, though, right? This does not look like the best place for a holding cell. Okay, we have the holding cell. Ugh, thank God. And now we're gonna work with this. This is like our centerpiece. This is something that we want to just absolutely nail, right? And I think this is where we start to really see necrotech, right? This is it. This is where the walls start to come alive. Okay, so aesthetically, I want it to look like the pipe goes up, right? And it cuts over, and then it goes through. So let's grab that. All right, now what can we do with this other block here? When do we start to really use this stuff? Yes, okay, so this is kind of an accident, but that's the flat side, but this has got the vent work to it, right? Like, you can still see into the wall, which is what this stuff was. So we're going to stick with that. Okay, that's pretty good. Is there a better transition, though? That's pretty abrupt, isn't it? That is pretty abrupt. We'll do that. That looks a little bit better. That looks a little bit better. All right, we've got our holding facility there. Now we've got to tie in a little bit more machinery, don't we? So let's go back over here. So we have some thematic pistons. Now you're probably thinking right now, you're like, Okay, what are the point of the pistons, Dusk? Nobody is going to hit those. That's a complete waste of points. So it's not. This is back where I, again, referencing the first video I made about how to make awesome bases, right? I use a 3-layer strategy. An engage layer, a flank layer, and a blocking restricting layer. And the engagement layer is just there to give the player something to look at, to draw their attention, proc their danger sense so that they don't notice the other stuff procking danger sense. And something like this, pistons right here, are a great engage layer. Gets the big broad entrance, and what's this look like here? How we could probably put... We're going to be covering up a lot of our really cool stuff here, but it's, you know, we got to kill somebody at some point. It can't be all murder and rainbows all the way to the end, right? So we might even run these pistons all the way down the wall and then have them over here as well. So this might not be where this ends. This might be a whole thing. All right, so we got to think. I'm trying to generate some ideas. I'm looking at the room and I'm just imagining like the raider coming in. Do I want some AI up there? I could put some flyers up there. I feel like that would make a little bit more sense. I don't know if it'd make sense to put guys up there. I've got a much cooler idea for this guy. We'll make like a little vent that he flies out of. That'll be kind of interesting. We kind of want it to be a little blind to the player. I cover that up there. Just gonna get our guard flyer. You were right there. Let's get that going. All right, see what that looks like. And then kind of goes back into his little, like, yeah, his little cubby hole. That looks kind of cool. That can also catch a player off guard if they roll in here and the flyer's not out there yet. I think that just looks really cool. Alright. So what we have here is a very interestingly shaped room. We've got a really strong engage layer, a really strong engage layer. We're telling a story. It looks freaking cool. And we've got a little bit of lethality to it. Now, we have to decide, do we want most of our lethality to come from our flank layer, or do we want it to come from a different layer? And I'm starting to think we want it to come from a different layer. I think we want most of our lethality to come from the guards that come rushing in from behind. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be really cool. Alright, let's go set those guards up. I think our best bet for guards is going to be from back here. So let's go ahead and put a hollow cube up here. Or maybe here, like that? Like double hollow cube, maybe? God, that really doesn't show off much at that. So maybe we're probably better off doing the hollow cube here. And then we'll put the blood there. And there. Very nice. And then we're going to go ahead and put picture perfect on that. So these guys will come rushing out of here. Let's just put 2. We'll put 2 guys there. And hopefully, I think we can get away with this as well. If we do picture perfect here. I'm going to do a compartment for 2 guys here as well. Is it warmongers, or would I... You know what? Let's not do warmongers here. Let's do something different. We don't want to get carried away with warmongers. Let's do these guys right here. And the more I thought about this, I want this like 3D. We're going to put 3 of these guys back here. We're going to get bloodlust, and we're going to get reflex manipulation. I would really like to put armor on them, but I think 3 guys firing pretty rapidly is going to be the way to go. All right, so this room is done from a kill perspective. We've got a really strong engage layer. We've got a really strong, you know, blindside layer here that can get some kills. And then we've got a really strong third layer to, like, block in and restrict movement from over there. We don't have a strong block-in layer here just yet. So let's get that set up. Looks like this bevel's going to have to go away as well. The best laid plans of my cements. This is where I talked about having to, like, edit and re-edit stuff. Yeah, it happens. Because we need a flamethrower there. Pretty badly. Okay, that goes on the ceiling. That goes on the floor. Because we want to maintain that kind of alternating vibe that we had going on. Put these everywhere we can. Yeah, I think that works out pretty good. I love this cage. This cage, I absolutely love. That's so good. Complete waste of points. My favorite. Putting all the finishing touches on the base took a long time, so we're just going to skip ahead here to the finished product so that you can see what this looks like. We'll zoom back out so that you can see what the thumbnail basically looks like. That's roughly what appears in the thumbnail, and it looks, it honestly looks even better in the thumbnail. So that turned out really great. Let's take a little bit of a fly through here. You see the front facade here looks pretty good. But so we've got the first room. It's pretty easy to navigate. We've got the tunnel here at the end. I probably should put a marker here or something to spruce up the room a little bit, but this is kind of what I came up with. I think it looks really good, but the lighting ring around the top, you know, we got a little pipe sticking through right there, but the lighting around the top I think turned out really good. And then we go down here, and then it's pretty easy to check everything out. And then come down into the room and you get your first node here, so not too bad. This cutaway here, you know, we're just incorporating the pipe work, right? We're trying to show off this is a necro facility. And then we get up here to a long hall, which I decided to make the hall big and open instead of the one-by-one claustrophobic hallway. Because again, I want the player to be able to see and travel quickly. So even though the base is quite large, it doesn't take a long time to traverse. Now, right here, the player might, you know, check this corner a little bit. But overall, it just ends up being like a really nice display piece for, again, just the pipe work. You know, using that in our necro engineering facility. And we've got the light bar, you know, continuing this theme of putting that along the top. And as you can see, I used the blood pattern. Like, I'll take the blood off. Normally, it's pretty plain, but I discovered that if you put the blood on these tiles, it really adds a lot of depth to it. So, and then I try not to cover up too many of the obsidian blocks to help this blend in. But I have a feeling that this part of the base is going to need to be touched up. All right, so again, we're continuing on. You know, we have the second part of the hallway, big and open, easy to traverse. And you're going to notice I did already push this live, and we've had some raids. I'm going to watch a replay as well. All right, we get to this part, and here's the main room. But before you get in here, there's a secondary room that the player can come explore. And if they do come explore it, they get rewarded with a treasure node. I had an idea while I was building this base that I want to create areas to explore that are not tedious, but are just kind of different areas of a facility or a base or a level, and then have that be where the treasure nodes are hidden. So you kind of reward the player for exploring if they want the treasure nodes, but, you know, it takes time. But I also want to make sure that it's very clear. Like, I did not try to hide this. It wasn't something they had to look for, because that's tedious, and tedium isn't fun. I want this to be a very clear option for the player. It's like, oh, there's a secondary area. Let me go explore. And it's like, oh, cool, a reward for exploring, right? I wanted this to feel good. And, of course, you know, we have some things here, painting a picture in this room. And now we've got the crowning jewel. This is the, let's grab this real quick. This is the main room. So really tried to, like, create, like, a living, breathing atmosphere with the AI, instead of just using them as sort of a type of turret, right? Like, actually add some personality to it. We've got this guy here. I've got a bunch of pistons. These are all mainly for decoration, but they still help me get a kill, and I'll explain that. So then we continue on to the next area. We really get into the hellscape. Everything is covered with blood. It's a pretty clear transition at this point as we move into the heart. And this even, you know, we get into the verticality, which is I wanted to do. And we have some really, it almost looks like a chambered heart, doesn't it? It turned out so well, and we have more treasure here just to reward the player for making it this far through the base, to encourage them to keep going. And we have some really sneaky bomb traps up here, which will trigger when the player jumps on this. So we do have trapped treasure at this point. And then the guards here as well. And pistons and a flamethrower at the end. And as the player continues on, then we get into the final room here, which is the GenMat room. And then we've got these marked out, which are some quick escape, because we don't have anything second wave, and it is a fairly long trek. So this is the finished product. And so now let's go check out a replay. So I want to take a short break in the middle of the video just to plug my newest sponsor, Rogue Energy. I've switched to them. They're pretty awesome. You ought to check them out. Information in the description below. All right, so here we go. They're going to enter. A little cautious at first, as they should be. Checking out the ceiling. And now they've kind of got a view of the whole room, and they can see that the whole room is safe. So now pretty much all the tension is gone. And see how, you know, quickly they move through. Not too bothered. They can clearly see down here. Look how fluid their movement is, right? Like, they're not moving in a tedious manner. This is a player who feels safe moving around at a casual speed, right? And then their teammate comes down. They head up here. Thankfully, the rest of it is good. So that corner is a little tedious, but then they get out of the corner, and here we go. They're looking around again. They seem to be enjoying it. They run right up here, though. Yeah, they start checking those. It is a little too obvious. And unfortunately, this ruins, like, the entire third layer. Here come the other bloodlust guards, which are unfortunately killed very easily. So I'm going to have to tweak this part of the base, right? But that's, you know, that's part of base building. So they see this room, this person explores, and then this raider gets caught up here a little bit. They use a grenade to take out the flyer. And then they run in there, and then they get grabbed and torched. You can hear their body burning. So that's one kill. Again, they felt safe. They were distracted. The visuals looked cool. As I've mentioned in my other video, a distracted player is a dead player. Let your raiders have fun, and you are going to get kills on them. Alright, so here we go. They're checking the room out, and now they've, you know, seen this little containment box, right? This little prison or whatever it is. And now they're just checking everything out here, right? They're just really taking it in. And it looks like our bomb guy is glitched out. We're going to have to redo the pathing on him. And the flamethrower. Didn't even notice it. And then now we're on to the first actual restrictive corridor. This one here. But the whole thing's a straight shot, so they can pretty easily see what's up. And yeah, this has really confused them. They were like, they really stared at that. But I love that. I love that that got their attention so much. Alright, so now we're into that heart. The thing that looks like an actual heart. This turned out so well. So they're looking, checking things out. Here come the bombs. That player gets away. This player does not. So they die to the bomb trap here. Which, again, they didn't have any place to go, because bombs are really good about cutting players off and killing them all in one go. It's a really, really nice trap. And it looks like they've got everything figured out here. Let's cut back to this raider. And then our flamethrower, of course. And now they're to the final room. They get the gen mat here, and then they get the escape. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the build video. If you liked these, we'll definitely do more of them. If that wasn't your cup of tea, I can go back to doing raid videos. I don't know. You guys let me know what you like. Maybe you like it all, and we just keep it all mixed up. Anyway, we'll catch you in the next one.